Hi, my name is Jeffrey Wright, and I wrote and directed this film that is unveiling before your eyes now. And I must say, to look at it again after so many years is quite an experience for me. So I hope you enjoyed it, but just by way of letting you in on the inside story, I should tell you one or two things about this production. Now, this music you can hear by my very good friend John Clifford White was written in 1992, and actually John provided all the music that appears in the film. People think that we got hold of a bunch of bands. Well, we didn't. It's all John's work. And we begin with a big lie, folks, because this is not actually Footscray Station. This is Richmond Station in Melbourne. But we couldn't get permission to shoot in Footscray, as I shall explain more about that later. And we're coming up to a scene which really set a fairly notorious tone for the movie. It was rather brutal. It certainly sounded brutal. And we introduce all the boys here. All the costumes you see, all the bits and pieces, I mean, they're all designed. Nobody brought their own things to this production. It was all made or found. And here we go. Here's Mr. Crow. An amazing actor. We're very lucky to have him. I think it's fair to say that it was this role that made him famous in Australia and kind of got him known around Europe and eventually the States.
What are you doing here? I'm going to tell you something. I want you to listen to me, okay? This is not your country.
As you can see, we're playing it fairly rough. Very rough. That was a very good kick from the late Daniel Pollock, who died in post-production. I'm very sad to say, but he was a marvelous young actor. We're very lucky to have him too, and I feel kind of really privileged that we're able to capture his talent and record it before he lost his life. We thought we could lend the film an air of authenticity if we could introduce the characters in this way, with the names underneath the actors. It's a very cold night in Melbourne when we shot this. I remember that. We had a lot of support from the Vietnamese community at the time that we made the film, because they thought that it was an important film to make. That up until then, Australians had seen themselves as racially tolerant and easygoing, and here was a chance to show the dark side of the big cities in Australia, particularly Melbourne in this case. This young fella here, doing most of the talking, Tony Lee, has since become quite a spokesman in the Vietnamese community in Australia. He kind of got his start in this film. He'd done some acting before. I think he was the only Vietnamese guy that had some experience with acting. All the other people, Vietnamese people you see in the movie, really had never done anything before. And I thought they did well. A few of them have gone on to have separate careers of their own. I don't want to take responsibility for this fella's haircut. Here's Jackie McKenzie, who has done some work in Hollywood since the movie was made. And she's currently based in London. We're very lucky to have her too. She's about 24 years old here.
That's
That fellow who's playing her father, Alex Scott, actually had a role in Truffaut's Fahrenheit 451. He was one of the book people. And the big fellow there, Steve Millershon, had a role, I think, in the first Mad Max movie. Road Warrior, as I think it was called in the US.
You like punching up little girls, sir. The junkies like punching up little girls.
We had a lot of fun with the set decorating, as you can see. You know, it was a bit like a junk sale or something, but we thought it was appropriate for the movie. And I think that we were trying to do something a little different with the costumes too, because we used a lot of colour, especially on Jack. I remember Russell complaining that he thought that he looked like a clown in the movie because he had big boots and a big overcoat, but he eventually got used to it and learned to love it. We couldn't get him out of it after a while.
Need some money, Martin.
That's David Trednick being wrestled there into submission. And we're very quickly cruising up to the other controversial aspect of the film, which was a strain of incest, a theme of incest.
Missed you badly.
I mean, looking back at the film now, I cringe at how blunt we were with the cutting and the shooting and all that. But, of course, with movies of this size, you've got that freedom. I miss that freedom. I don't have it anymore. As you work on more expensive projects, you have to worry about appealing to a very wide audience. Consequently, you often have less impact to more people. But in a production of this size, you can have maximum impact on a smaller number of people, which is the virtue of independent filmmaking. But films cost so much now. I think even independent films have been co-opted to some extent. I mean, they've got a boutique quality which I don't like. They lack roughness, and I think roughness is a virtue. Josephine Keane coming in first, and there's Sam Bladen. I think you can see we had a bit of fun with their outfits too. We were fairly authentic with the boys. I mean, you know, the Australian skinheads did look pretty much like that. And I guess the outfit is fairly standard throughout the world at that time, in the early 90s.
Get him out. If he doesn't leave, I'll turn off the beer.
This is a very typical old Melbourne pub. They're all boutiques now, but in those times, in the early 90s, there were still a few left. They're really just kind of workers' paradise watering holes. Blue collar as hell. I think they're all gone now.
Rollo says that you had some goops in here last week.
What's it to you?
Well, what were they?
I love the faces in this scene.
No, this is my fucking place, mate.
The interesting thing about having a bald head is that it makes the people around you concentrate on the features of your face. So if you're ugly with a bald head, man, you are really ugly. If you have a good bone structure, if you're handsome, then that shines.
Who's that?
I don't know. Never seen her before.
Bit of a space monster, if you ask me.
Space cadet.
I think you put Russell's head to very good effect. Daniels too. We had a lot of trouble with a pink shirt of his that night too. He didn't want to wear that either. I can see that big thick tattoo on his neck. I think that was also fairly typical of skinhead body design of the day. It's my old friend Bill Halliwell, who had a career in Melbourne radio as a film reviewer. We put him in the film here. We thought he was another interesting face.
What did you just call me? Just leave it.
There's Sam again. Russell just commands every scene that he's in. He was great to work with. We had a lot of fun blocking the scenes out, and he always had ideas. And of course, he's a director now, or he's about to be a director. a deal with DreamWorks, I think.
Yeah, fucking whatever, I surrender.
You motherfucker!
It's getting better, Davey.
Gotta be careful with Russell in these kind of fight scenes because he doesn't pull his punches very much. What you see is what you get. I mean, occasionally he does, but he is a tough guy. Look at Daniel.
You want that jacket? You want that jacket?
Daniel's very much concentrating on what he has to do all the time. He's very internalized. He's subtle. I liked his work very much in the film. I think Russell enjoyed himself very much doing this. And a bit of trivia. Daniel Pollock really did hurt himself in that scene with his hand. We used candy glass, of course, but still, with the right angle, with the right impact, you can still hurt yourself. Now we shot this by the Yarra River in Melbourne. This is more or less in Footscray. Yeah, we're definitely in Footscray here. And this location, I remember I came down to scout it one day. It was filled with syringes and all sorts of dangerous paraphernalia, which we had to clear up in case somebody got tetanus or something worse. I think in those times, Melbourne was going through a transition from a manufacturing centre to a high-tech kind of place. So we had our choice of a lot of big empty warehouses and factories, you know.
Nice jacket.
We had no shortage of locations that we thought were appropriate to the world of Hando. Yes, it really was bleeding too.
It's not even deep. A bit of glass in it.
Not sure about Jackie's haircut there, that twirly bit on the top. Always worried me.
Still bleeding. It's pretty clean.
It's Eric Muick who just sat down. And I think before this film he had a career as a guy who would come to your door and sing birthday greetings and things like that. I think he was a stripper, a male stripper too, at one stage. I love the echoes and the empty kind of feeling that we had in these places, you know. Production of this size, we really couldn't afford to do anything in the studio. It was all on location, in the best indie tradition. The film was very blue. There's lots of blue, particularly in this scene, but you'll notice it all the way through. Give it a nice cold quality, which again is a very obvious kind of blunt thing to do, I guess, but not inappropriate. Jackie was great. These two worked really well together. That bulldog sign was a symbol for the local football team, who were mightily offended that it appeared in the movie. That little teddy bear thing that Jackie's holding, I still got it myself. I keep it as a kind of a memento of the film.
Oh, you're awake.
Sitting on my mantelpiece.
Brought my bag up and downstairs. I didn't get to salvage much from the place where I was living. Some idiot tore it all up. Easy for tap dancing.
We spoke to a lot of real skinheads before we made the film, of course, and Russell spoke to them too. Russell, being a method actor in the grand old tradition,
Everyone says I look like her.
he was
Not saying I'm good looking, I'm not saying that.
very much in favor of bonding with the rest of the gang. And of course at night, when we weren't doing night shoots, he would go off with the boys and they'd get into all sorts of trouble. I remember once I got a phone call 4 a.m. from the producer, and he told me that most of the cast had been arrested earlier that night. And I remember asking him, Daniel, what are we going to shoot tomorrow if everybody's in jail? We got them out and kept working. Apparently Russell had bonded too well and had got the boys all worked up, and I think they picked a fight in a barn or something. Now these guys rolling up,
When you see the yellow scupper coming up the road, will you turn the other cheek just like a gutless toad? Or will you stand your sacred ground and fall there like the...
that's John Brompton, who got out first, qualified black belt. So he helped us out with some of the fight choreography. That's Janie Anderson, who has since gone on to become a comedian in her own right back in Australia. Always had a crush on Jane.
What? Here, Magoo. Magoo! Way to go!
People were very fond of Magoo in Australia for some reason.
Fucking Magoo, what are you doing here?
Didn't have time to tell you we were coming, mate. Didn't know we were coming, actually just kept on driving. Forgot to fucking stop. Check this out.
That's Stephen Hall.
Joined up a couple of months ago.
We noticed in our research that a lot of the skinheads actually went into the armed services. And that's the same for any country that they're in, whether they're British, Australian, or American. To this day, we get a lot of email requests and snail mail requests from people in the US military wanting a copy of the film or a copy of the soundtrack.
We're the handsome can.
I'm not sure what to think about that.
Come to see the ugly Melbourne boys.
This is my mate Magoo. That's Jackie. And that's Flea.
Hi.
Got something for you, boys.
I haven't had time to talk about much of the other cast. That fellow with the cigarette butt in his mouth is Lee Russell, a Welshman by birth, and also knew quite a bit about the British skinhead scene, as I recall. I liked his accent. It gave us an air of authenticity.
30. 40 then.
Look at these two.
Ow!
I love that scene.
That's all I got. How long are you staying for?
That's a real relic, that knife, apparently. It was a real Nazi relic.
Yeah, pay me back next
It's very interesting digging up the props for the movie.
Magoo! Champions!
There's Eric Muick again on the left.
Hey, that's Billy.
He got Eileen up
Looks
the duff.
alright.
I love the way Jackie made her character slowly bond with Daniel Pollock's character. The way that their relationship slowly came about in the background. This was a very notorious scene. And this is actually how they danced. The orgy that this little party ends in, people have often asked me, were they really getting down and dirty? Well, the answer to that is, and I'm not trying to be sensational, the answer is yes. It was very difficult to control these actors at one point. There's John's music in the background. If you bother to listen to the lyrics, they're kind of outrageous and stupid, but very appropriate. Highly racist, highly provocative. Don't try this at home, ladies and gentlemen. That little fella holding the punching bag, his character name was Bubs. He's a young actor called James McKenna. Well, he was young then. He's a funny kid. ending is rather confronting, isn't it? Makes me laugh. But we thought it made you feel like you were there, you know, that it wasn't just, you know, done for its own sake, that it really contributed to the chaotic, confrontational feel of the whole production. I thought the film was very well cut.
Oh, Bubsy! Oi, Davey, cop a drink.
A waste of good alcohol. It took us hours to get this stuff on Russell's back and shoulders, and I must say I do feel sorry for the makeup and hair people that have to do that, because he wasn't always in a good mood first thing in the morning to have that done to him.
Nice party, mate.
I remember when Russell flew into Melbourne to start shooting, and we sent a girl out to pick him up, and somehow they'd picked a fight between getting off the plane and trying to get into the car that was to take him to the production office. They got into a fight, and the girl driven off with his suitcase, but without Russell. So that was our introduction to Russell.
Hey, Flea.
But he did a great job. Just fantastic. Stephen's very funny there. I like what he did.
You look like shit, Davey.
We used a little bit of smoke in the movie. You know, soften up a couple of shots, make it a little bit more exotic here and there. And in this scene, we kind of touched on the what can only be described as the kind of man-to-man kind of relationship that happens in these gangs that are so determinedly heterosexual and upfront macho, but there's always this underlying strain of something else that goes on. So we kind of touched on that in this scene a little bit. In a very kind of subtle, indirect way. And I think what was great about what Russell did was that if he got close to anyone, it was only Daniel Pollock's character. Otherwise, he was always kind of aloof, even from Jackie's character in the story.
Why are you going through all this stuff?
There's a nice angle there from Ron Hagen, the DP. He was also the operator. Who went on to do a film with Natasha Kinski called Little Boy Blue.
Powerful people brought in boatloads of human trash. Cheap labor.
The film was, the sound recording was done by a fellow called David Lee, who worked on The Matrix, which I'm sure you've heard of.
I want people to know that I'm proud of my white history, my white blood. One day it might be all I have. But I don't want to go the same way as the fucking Abo.
The Abo that Russell refers to there is the Aborigines, the indigenous people of Australia, who suffered pretty much the same kind of thing that the indigenous people of North America suffered. Being pushed off traditional land and that type of thing. And the point the character was making was that he didn't want to be pushed out by the new wave of migrants that were coming into the country from Southeast Asia. I mean, what we discovered from our research was that these guys, although they were brutal, were very much afraid of change. Now, this business with the Mein Kampf was a little bit controversial. I mean, from the point of view that a lot of the right-wingers and right-wing extremists had found, Hitler to be out of fashion. But my argument to the producers was that, you know what, it's like Elvis Presley, Hitler is classic to fascists, like it or not. So we weren't too worried about what was currently the trend as far as that was concerned. We thought that Hitler was appropriate for Russell's character.
The works of the superior men.
I think what we found was that because Hitler had ultimately failed, some of the cutting-edge fascists had tried to distance themselves from him. But philosophically, of course, they're in exactly the same boat.
Racial blood must then be preserved.
And they end exactly the same way, on a bigger or on a smaller scale, of course. That was a nice shot. This is a typical exterior. You can see this facade here. These buildings were made in the 1860s, 1870s. And very typical of the pubs that were all over Melbourne in the early 90s. Still are, but as I said, they're all boutique places now. They went through a yuppie phase, and now they're clubs, you know, ecstasy clubs, raves, that type of thing. There's an actor called Don Bridges. We loved his face.
30 days. Did you finalise your plans for the old place?
We will change
These three fellas here.
to a restaurant with bar.
Formation. Good faces too.
A little older, if they are smart enough.
Well.
That's Frank McGree on the left of the pinball machine.
I'm just going out for about an hour, Mr.
His demise is close by in the story. I think what we were getting at in this scene was that the Vietnamese were good merchants. They were good business people, and they knew how to generate wealth. And what a lot of these blue-collar white kids were afraid of was the fact that these people could come in and do well where they couldn't, you know. And that entailed a lot of jealousy and resentment. Which I guess is the story with reactionary people all over the world. It's based on fear.
I'm not living with no fat bitch.
We combine a lot of humour in the film. We got into some trouble for that, but I think it was the right thing to do. People complained that there wasn't enough editorial commentary condemning the characters, but my argument was that the characters ended up the same way as Hitler, and that is they were wiped out. And to me, that was enough of a commentary to say that that's what their actions led to, their own self-destruction. And if you don't want people to go down this path, you can't present them with arguments about loving their fellow man or anything like that, because most people are fundamentally selfish. But if you tell them if they go down this path, they're going to end up screwing up their own lives, and if you can kind of show that, they might listen to that. A scary moment with the boys. Frank McGree, Eric Muick, Russell, of course, Daniel Wiley, and Daniel.
How you going?
I think what always boosted these scenes was the malevolence that Russell was able to, you know, the emotional violence, not just the physical, that Russell was able to bring to the scenes. You know, Russell's got this ability as an actor to unearth his own darker angels, and it really works. It's scary, which of course he used in LA Confidential to great effect, which I would say is where he was really recognized, you know, in the States. But he's always busy, he's always working, he's always trying to make a moment happen. We're leading up now to one of my favorite scenes, which was the big fight scene, which we had a lot of fun shooting.
What are you doing here, Bugs? You were told not to come here. Oh, oh shit, let me through.
What's happening?
What are you doing here? Hey, what are
You bloody well do what you're told, woman.
I thought I told you to take a shot.
They're only kids.
Who says?
You'll notice that the boys want their women to stay at home while they're busy beating up the other kids.
The only thing for you here is pain. We don't love you. You understand? Understand? I hope you do make...
Australia not having a tradition of guns like the US has in terms of its gangs and criminal life. We have a lot of blackjacks, truncheons, chains, things of that nature, which of course we use in this film as well, to fairly good effect. And here comes the cavalry. I love the way the boys hop out of the back. How many people can you get in one of those vans? Here we go. The big fella is Chris McLean. He's actually a very sweet man. Very busy soundtrack at this stage. We did the usual thing with, you know, tigers and elephants, all sorts of animals on the soundtrack, along with a little bit of percussion and an awful lot of screaming. Lee Russell hitting himself. When I see this, I sometimes think of that old film Zulu that Michael Caine did. More troops. Steven Spielberg watched this movie and had a few words to say about this. He quite enjoyed the movie, I should add. But he was very interested in the choreography of this. I like this moment where the girlfriend is trying to hang on to the guy even though there's a big brawl on. You know, we wanted to keep reminding people that even though these people were thugs and criminals, they had personal lives and emotions like, you know, anybody. How much fun can you have on a scooter? Let's see. All this handheld stuff was done by Ron Hagen. There's no Steadicam in the film. It's all basically handheld 16mm camera. Of course, the film was shot on Super 16, which got blown up to 35 for theatrical. And it's a great medium because of its portability. And I much prefer the effect of handheld to Steadicam. Steadicam is, well, too steady. But you get a feel that you are in there. This is virtual reality, ladies and gentlemen. You are in there in the fighting with the handheld camera. And there goes Frank. Once again, the characters being connected to each other. On this occasion, they can't go back, but you know, I want to keep showing the emotional bonds between them. John's music welling up here again, creating a sense of energy. And a lot of our critics said too much fun here, and were kind of saying to the audience, yeah, it's fun to go out and beat people up. Well, I suppose my answer to that is there's a certain amount of irony in John's lyrics at this point, if you bother to listen to them. And there's even irony in the very notion of cementing the high energy of the music with what is basically a rout for the skinheads. Complete Waterloo going on here. I love the way that Russell organises the kids as they retreat. And I must say, when I saw Gladiator and he was organising the prisoners in the arena, against the gladiators in the chariots, it reminded me a little bit of Romper Stomper, the way he took control. And I think even some of the commands like fall back, and regroup are identical to what he said in this film. So for me, it was personally very funny. We dressed these tires in to the location. I've seen so many tires in my whole life. Once again, I think the handheld is operating to very good effect. I mean, a lot of people think that we were very much inspired by Clockwork Orange. Well, to the extent that all gang films are, we were. But to me, it was Quadrophenia that stylistically was a big influence on us, which I believe is directed by Frank Rodham. British film. I think it was made in the early 80s. Very good film. Featuring the music of The Who. It's very busy, isn't it? People climbing and running everywhere. People are coming down the chimney. And I truly believe that Mr. Spielberg may have remembered some of these moments when he did Saving Private Ryan. The attack on the building near the bridge and the Germans pouring through, and the chaos and the energy. It doesn't let up here, does it? Sonny Jim to the rear, but try to do something practical. Tiger. I remember the first time I saw the film with an audience, and I knew we had an interesting film because people's heads were just riveted to the screen in this sequence.
They got him in Lugamagoo.
What is yours? Come and help! What do you keep running for?
On big screen, it's particularly effective. It's a combination of the cacophony and the shaky camera and these very dirty kitchen sink performances. Russell really pulls the bad guys together here in terms of morale. And he's going to prove just how courageous he really is. We're going to have a lot of trouble for this, too, from the critics across the world, because we were saying that the bad guys have courage. And that we were glamorizing them. But, well, a lot of the people we spoke to were gutsy. A bit like Custer, a little bighorn. Guts they had. Maybe not a whole lot of sense.
What the fuck are you afraid of? This is our place. No more running. We stop them here!
Yeah, I thought this was a terrific moment for Russell. A little bit of clear thinking and planning here when he realizes the troops are a little bit cowardly under fire.
All right.
I mean, he really is the backbone and the brains of the gang here. Relentless pursuit of the Vietnamese, I thought, put them in a good light. The bad guys are on the way out here. This is the beginning of their. This is the decline and fall of the skinhead empire taking place here.
Keep your fucking head down. They don't know we're here yet.
Kate! Kate! Where's your jacket?
A little bit of gallantry from Daniel Pollock's character, where he has to go back and retrieve the jacket. This is a very romantic gesture on his character's part. Completely inappropriate. The scene of the battle. But we thought it was a nice touch. This is more sign of him caring about Gabe, the girl, rather than the fortunes of the game and the emergence of his humanity and all that type of thing. One of the interesting things about doing a movie on a low budget is that when you destroy a set like this, you can't go back. Once it's smashed, you can't go back there and work again because you've lost it and you can't afford to redress it or set fire to it. So you have to really rehearse these things and make sure that you get everything right, because you don't get a second chance. Now you won't see it on any of these shots, but Daniel Pollock actually fell through a hole in the roof in that scene. And I remember being underneath him at the time and looking up and seeing his legs dangle between the corrugated iron. And he was about 40 feet above me. And we got some of the stunt guys up there and they pulled him to safety, but we were very worried we were going to lose him there at one point. God, there's so much graffiti in this film. And say Jim's butt.
Ê, cảnh sát! Đi xuống nghe lên, xuống!
Fucking next time.
We'll get you next time, skinheads. Once again, another big slab of industrial wasteland in Melbourne, which was completely vacant and empty.
Rob, open up! Rob! Is that you? Wife Basher?
What are you doing here?
Can we talk to you for a while?
And the introduction of some new characters.
I don't know.
Where's Tracy?
I'm here, Rob.
One of them played by a very good friend of mine. I shall point out in a moment. That's his eye there, by the way.
Fucking stash, she's not coming back.
Rob, I know we haven't known each other for long, but we feel bad about what happened and we'd like to give you some money, if only to pay for the food we ate.
You two have money, pig.
Rob, don't be a bastard. We want to make it up to you.
Well, stick it in the hole.
If you want this money, then have the decency to see us face to face.
It's Angus Cummings, who was a Melbourne-based filmmaker, who was a lot of help to me in pre-production. He was very critical of the script and gave me some ideas, and you know, we talked about dialogue and action, things like that. This is Craig Mercer, who plays his buddy in the movie.
Come on, guys.
Dopehead loser.
How's it going?
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Is that all you got to say?
We didn't have a lot of time to light the movie, and in a way, I regret that. On the other hand, looking at it now, there's a certain simplicity to it, which I kind of like. So maybe if we'd have had more time to dick around with the light, we may have washed away some of the grittiness. I mean, it looks pretty natural here. It looks like we just used available light, but that's not true. I mean, of course, Ron Hagen had to work at 1,000 miles an hour. We didn't have long to shoot this movie. And there were so many action scenes in it, which I think on any other production would have taken a long time, but we're fortunate. And we were able to rehearse at a time when in pre-production when we weren't paying the actors. I'm not sure if we were supposed to be paying them or not, but we weren't, and we were able to rehearse the fight scenes and what have you without any undue burden on the budget. Never had that privilege since, by the way.
Hando, I'm starving, man.
Steve Jones Evans was the production designer on the movie, and I thought he did a great job. Like I said, pumping in a lot of colour. It would have been so easy just to go for, you know, a more monochromatic look, and it would have been easy to justify. But I like the colour. It has unexpected deposits of energy in it. The yellow and the blue, and all that type of thing. The contrasts, and occasionally lurid contrasts. We had to do this scene quite a few times, and I think the kids were all ready to vomit because they kept having to eat this crap on camera. So, if they look at all like they're hungry here, believe me, they're not. In fact, you may just have seen Bubs almost gag there and vomit into the bowl. He just stopped himself.
What is this shit?
Vegetables and pasta sauce.
Anything else?
Oh, I used
Well, Russell put in a lot of great quiet moments in his performance, which was enabled his big noisy moments to stand out. Of course, he's very bright that way as a performer, you know.
Bloody wog crap!
When he says wog crap, he's referring to the pasta as being somehow some kind of Mediterranean dish, which is inappropriate for a member of the super race. A domestic scene here. I mean, even skinheads have to wash the dishes at some point.
We want to make the effort.
Sorry. I'm sorry, it was an accident.
This is a nice moment where they're bonding. A little more. And another little shocking moment coming up when we find out that Gabe is epileptic. And some people said, oh, aren't you overdoing it? Incest, epilepsy, skinheads, violence, robbery, murder, blah, blah, blah. But, no, I think the excessiveness was entirely in our favour.
Gabe? Gabe?
What are you doing?
Davey, do something.
Not easy to do this.
What's wrong? She's a spastic.
Lee Russell here having a very black comedic moment when he impersonates her, having a fit. But in terms of the characters, it was a very important moment because here is where Daniel Pollock's character finally sets himself apart from the others by defending her, at least morally.
Sometimes.
And also, as a consequence, Hando realizes that his girl is far from perfect, that she's damaged goods.
I just get these fits.
She's not so attractive to him anymore.
There's stuff I
But of course, these people are always damaged goods. All this talk of white supremacy and the master race, it's so ironic. Because they're anything but.
I vote.
If you look at Daniel Wiley's skull on the right of your screen there, you can see the spiders crawling out of a hole in his head. I think it's a very funny tattoo.
I fired a 45 at a range once. It was fun.
You never used a 45. Don't shit me, sonny.
See, they're talking seriously here about acquiring a gun, which in most countries outside of the US is a big deal. I imagine that this scene is kind of lost on a lot of Americans because guns are so commonplace in gang fighting. But I was glad we didn't have guns in it. it would have been wrong. It would have been inauthentic for us, and we would have looked like everybody else too, like an American gang film, you know, which we didn't want.
No. I want to kill gooks. Gooks. Gooks.
We could go fruit picking.
I hate the fucking country. Don't I?
All right, then.
Another interesting thing I think about, you know, what we finally ended up doing was the way the characters come in and then they drop away. There's two girls, Josephine and Sam, are splitting. And this happens all through the movie. Characters are coming in and going. You know, the attrition rate in the gang life is pretty high. We wanted to reflect that. The hardcore hangs in there to their detriment, as it turns out, and in life too. The people that provided us with the best research were the ones who had been in the gang and who had left, of course. The ones who were still in the gang were just impossible to deal with. They were out of their minds, or in jail, or crazy. Far too dangerous to hang out with.
It's better than anything you got on your minds.
And here's a moment where Jackie's given them a big plan, and she's emerging as a very strong character with ideas. She's intelligent. So she has a little bit of a Lady Macbeth thing happening here. You know, she's got a plan. I love John's score at this point. It's really beautiful.
Hi.
Fuck you, Mel.
Crazy house, huh? Alex Scott coming up once again. Alex loved to talk. And he drove me crazy between takes, chatting about life, death, and reality. I don't think I've ever met anyone who loved to talk as much as Alex, but he did a great job here for us. Once again, a fairly eccentric design for the interior, but I think it works.
More Bundy, less Coke.
And we have a little bit of opera on the soundtrack here.
I remember.
We wanted to use something else, and I remember calling up the singer who lived in Europe, and I tried to talk him into allowing us to use his operatic music for the film, but he said thanks but no thanks and declined. He didn't want to be associated with anything that could be, you know, construed as exploitationist and trashy. And a lot of people did accuse us of that, but I never believed it. I thought there was too much going on in the story for us to be really guilty of that.
Sorry. I'm gonna go to the loo. I'll be back in a sec.
What is that? What are those things? I don't know where we got them from. Like something out of a Hollywood B-grade sci-fi or something. Aliens from another planet. Here come the boys. There's a couple of very special lines coming up that people always remembered after they saw the film. And of course you could say that here's where the Clockwork Orange influence is pretty strong, but actually we had a few cases of this type of thing happening in Melbourne and Sydney and Adelaide.
Nice place you have here.
Who the hell are you?
We came to wreck everything and ruin your life. God sent us.
Yes, we come to wreck everything and ruin your life. God sent us. That was the line that we put on the t-shirts.
Good on you.
Tim Martin, the big fat rich.
It was a good line. I mean, looking at the film now, the dialogue is very much pass the butter, having a nice day, that type of stuff. It's very kind of primitive and basic, often monosyllabic, but that's the way those people spoke. But we dropped in a couple of little pearls. And I hope the symbolism isn't lost to you here, that he's tied to the toilet. Trapped in a world of shit.
That's shit, isn't it? Could be worth something. The guns will be worth a lot. Hey, Gabe.
Looking at Jackie now, she's like a child. She's not like, I mean, she was 24 when she did the movie, but she looks so much younger. And of course, she was supposed to be, her character was so much younger.
Hey, Hando. I found her with that.
She's like a little elf or a fairy or something, you know?
None of them work, Bubs. The firing pin's been ground.
Bob's, played by McKenna there on the left, he really did, I think,
Still looks good, though.
look up to Russell. You know, a lot of the boys did. Russell was their big brother.
Well, he used to be in advertising, but he made films. He did Mortal Blade and Last Blood. They came out last year.
I think Russell even dealt with some of their personal problems after hours. I'm not sure how he dealt with them, but dealt with them he did.
He won an award for this poster.
He really was a father confessor, fearless leader for them after hours. And I encouraged this because I wanted them to feel like a real gang. That Russell was their real fearless leader. He was very happy to take on this responsibility.
Go on, then.
Look at these two.
Hurry up, come on. Let's get the fucking load so we can piss off. What a fucking tragedy breaking this up for
We certainly weren't subtle with the Rolls Royce, were we? I mean, you know.
Tackles. Just be fucking careful, all right?
I think we had difficulty trying to decide on a vehicle that said wealth, and like the decision to go with Adolf Hitler, and I think I ended up saying, let's go with the classics.
Jet crap.
And I mean that in terms of everybody knows what the symbol means. Of course, we couldn't afford to smash up the Rolls, so we smashed up this other thing. Which was Alex Scott's character's second car. Maybe it was his ex-wife's shopping car or something. I don't know how we justified it. But... the boys had a lot of fun with this, as you can imagine. All this kind of touches on something that often crosses my mind with subcults and gangs and things, that they often end up trashing their own turf or destroying their own environments, and you kind of wonder why they don't attack the bourgeois. It's very difficult for them to do that, so we thought it was interesting to create a situation where they could infiltrate and trash a place that was obviously, you know, middle class and well-to-do.
Did she know about us? Did she?
Because as we all know, the middle class really does want to pretend that, you know, there's no problems out there. It's the same with any middle class in any country. That's why one aspires to be in the middle class, so you can forget about all the other stuff.
An accident, that's all there was to it. I loved her. And I loved you.
Shut up!
All this stuff is pretty disturbing, you know, kind of mixed emotions of the incest victim. And trying to murder someone with Buddha, I thought was a nice touch.
Next time I'll aim at your skull.
Once again, she's little, but she packs a punch. She's a dangerous character, you know. I like the idea of a dangerous girl with a femme fatale in this story. That was probably symbolic for something, but I can't remember what.
Check this out. Timmy and Ted went to bed dressed in red dressing gowns.
And that was Jackie's own original composition. Timmy and Ted went to bed.
I used to always do this.
I don't know where we got this bed from, but it's pretty great. We wanted to show.
That's my brother Nicholas.
That is actually, now that I think about it, that fellow in the picture there is actually the production designer. Stephen Jones Evans, immortalized here in Romper Stomper.
You're cute too.
I'm not sure how long it would actually take you to cut through binds like that with broken porcelain. It would probably take you 15 hours or 24 hours, who knows. But in this movie, it cuts through much quicker. There's such a kind of peaches and cream look about Jackie, you know, the white skin and the fair hair and the freckles and everything. I mean, it just wouldn't have been the same if she'd have been a brunette or, you know, raven-haired or anything. It had to be like this.
I want him to go away on a holiday with me. Just him.
And the character sitting here dreaming away about what could be, all that kind of stuff. It worked well.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
Oh, now they're in trouble. Not sure about that blood. It's hard to do blood, especially in low-budget films. It's very hard to decide on the right color.
Don't you?
How much blue to put in it. I don't know where we got this music from. It was obviously off some disc to help low-budget filmmakers out of a jam, I think. Would absolutely anyone keep a gun in a cereal box? Once again, another little piece of action coming up. One of the great virtues of the Super 16 format and the handheld camera was that we were able to work so quickly and get the scenes covered. And when I look back on this production, I think one of the things that separates it from other indie movies is that there's a hell of a lot of action in it. Of course, another one of the joys of low-budget filmmaking is that mistakes do happen, and there's one coming up. You'll see a little, yes, you see it's broad daylight in that shot, but in this one it's very dark. And the reason is that that's the only shot we could get, because we're running out of time. And the bright shot was the last one we took for the night shoot on that particular occasion.
Stop doing that to your hair. You look fucking pathetic. And while you're at it, keep the fucking noise down as well.
Now, of course, the boys have to find someone to blame for an operation that went absurdly wrong.
I told you to shut up!
What's wrong with you?
You dumb slut. Shut up.
And the major misogynistic streak in the character was pretty typical of the people that we based it on.
Why couldn't you just take his stuff and go? You're a loser.
Jackie's character had so much courage to, answer back to the guy when he was vibrating with all this menace. That's what I liked about the Gabe character. She was gutsy. She was the equal to Russell's character in terms of courage.
I'm sick of looking at you. Go! We're finished. You're out.
But hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, as we shall soon see.
You all end up.
Shut up.
You live like shit. You can't even look after yourselves.
You can't even look after yourselves. That was a pretty important line. Because I thought it was true that people
Where the fuck are you going?
in these extremist groups really have great difficulty leading a normal, constructive life. Having the discipline to get up,
Baby.
wash your clothes, make your bed, that type of thing. There's a tremendous childlike quality to them, we discovered, which is very much personified in Bubs, in his name and in his actions and his relationships. It's like a very hurt little boy.
Gabe?
This was a tough day. I remember we were racing the clock here, but we nailed it pretty much, I think, in this one shot.
No.
You'd be amazed how often actors can step up to the plate for you when they know the clock's ticking. I guess it's the adrenaline. You've got 5 minutes left. You've only got one shot left. Let's get it right. Typical on a low-budget shoot is that there are no pickup days, so that you've got to get all of your shots before the company leaves the location. It's not like you can send second unit back to pick up some shots because there is no second unit.
Is that Footscray Police? Listen, I know where there's some people that you might be looking for.
I love this location. The vastness and the emptiness. And we're moving up to a point in the story where we can chip away a few more gang members. Once again, this theme of attrition and people falling away as we continue this low-budget odyssey. And the other thing about gangs like this is there's a tremendous familial aspect. They're a family to each other. For all sorts of reasons, their own family, their real families don't work, so they create new families amongst themselves. And I guess that's the same of any club or group, to some extent, but especially these guys. And there's almost a father-son thing happening here.
Anyone know we're here?
No.
Between Russell and James. Again, he's very good with these quiet moments.
Is there a tap outside?
Oh, no.
Thought you were supposed to be my...
This is as affectionate as Hando gets, But it means a lot. It's a bit like John Wayne giving someone a cigarette in Sands of Iwo Jima. It means a lot, even though the gesture is small. John's music again, a harbinger of doom. fellow on the right is really enjoying himself in the front seat. John's track, I think it's called Fourth Reich Fighting Man. What little bit of gunplay there is in the movie is just this scene, and it provides us with a nice tragic moment. Not sure about that shot right in the middle of the guy's head like that, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. Daniel Wiley. I like this scene. It was done quite fast and furious.
Too fucking late.
I think Lee Russell really caught one there too. Meanwhile, in Suburbia, we uncover the innocuous background to one of our gang members. Davy's family background in this case. A lot of people said at the time, oh, the Daxon thing was over the top and ludicrous, but you know,
You'll have a lovely smile.
I thought it was just fine. You know, it was a little bit of fun, and it said something about the kind of almost yellow brick road suburbia that some of these characters come from. You know, in this case, our character has got a German background, and I don't mean to say that you have to have a German background to be in a gang like this. In Australia, of course, you don't. They could have a British background, or they could be third or fourth generation Australian, but they are often Northern European.
Well, my grandma, you know, she doesn't know about that. She doesn't like the badges or anything. I don't want to upset her. It's her place.
Look at the painting on the walls, the mural. It's hilarious.
What's this?
That's my Matchbox collection.
Has a nice storybook quality to it. Nice contrast to the grit and the mayhem of the previous material.
Travels all around the world. See?
It's in the tradition of people putting pink flamingos up in their front yard. You know, we have quite a bit of this kind of quaint gingerbread stuff going on in some of the old inner suburbs in Melbourne.
I think he's in Sydney working on the Sydney Harbour Tunnel.
Looking at Daniel here, again after all these years, it's very overwhelming for me because he died in post-production. He had a drug problem. It never affected his work for us, but I guess in post, the wheels fell off, and he was killed by a train. And whether it was something that happened to him when he was just off his face, didn't know where he was, or whether he wanted to do it, nobody really knows. But he had a huge future ahead of him. It was very, very tragic. And a terrible shock and a trauma for all of us involved in the production. We were able to loop him, and we got that. He'd done everything that we needed. It was like as if he held it together for this movie, and as soon as he knew he'd done all he had to do, it all fell apart. But I greatly regret not being able to work with him again. I regret his loss to the Australian industry, and I believe the guy would have had a career, an international career if he'd have gone on. It was a terrible, terrible loss. And it traumatized all of us. But as I said, he was in good shape for the production. Certainly enjoyed that scene with Jackie, I think. Looking back, I really admire the gutsiness of the kids, their willingness to approach the scenes full on, you know, no embarrassment, no restraint, just provide what they thought was, you know, interesting and relevant and, you know, authentic. But we were young. I don't know if any of us would have the same guts these days.
Killed Bubs. What?
It's the kind of thing that you lose as you get older because you're trying to appeal to a wider audience, you know, in the mainstream. And you can't afford the eccentricities and the excesses that you explored, you know, in a film like this. I was very glad we made this film.
She hasn't told anyone.
We certainly got into a lot of trouble for it. It was banned outright in France. The Italians were kind of upset about it, but they allowed it to be screened. The Germans were the most open with it. I think they wanted to prove to everybody that they could confront, you know, Nazi themes or right-wing extremist themes, you know, in a very mature kind of way. So they wanted to prove to everybody that, you know, they weren't going to stop a film like this, and they didn't. The British, well, we had a theatre in London, I think, but there were protests. The anti-fascist league heavily picketed the movie, thinking that the film was pro-fascist, which I think now, and I thought then, was a completely absurd knee-jerk reaction, but nevertheless that was their position. And it was very difficult to see the movie. I mean, physically you were stopped from going in the cinema. And in that moment I thought, and I argued, that they'd become as repressive as the people that they politically despised. But that's politics.
What do you want to do?
I got a plan, man.
So we're getting into the last stages of our story now, and I kind of wanted to show this odyssey continuing, leaving everything behind, and just going with the essentials, you know, the clothes on their back, a stolen car, and of course some candy from the gas station.
Is he dead? Is the car full? Is he dead? Is the car full?
And it begins with a murder.
Is the car full? Yes. The Derry! The fucking Derry! Yes! Where'd you fucking kill him? We'll drive all night and dump this piece of shit in Adelaide.
This was done in a garage. Russell, of course, is motionless. And I remember telling him to use the steering wheel a little more, and he said, you know, I'm imagining a very straight stretch of road. And if Russell doesn't want to do something, he does want to do it. So we assumed it was a very straight stretch of road. Frank Lipson's sound design, getting a little bit creative there in the background. I thought Frank did a great job. Mixed all sorts of surprises in the action of the business. This is a beach in my home state of Victoria, off what they call the Great Ocean Road. I mean, Australia has more beach than any other country in the world. Nothing but beach. It's all one big beach. Beach and desert. A little bit of green on the fringes. And I thought it was interesting to take these very urban animals and put them in a kind of organic, natural environment of soil and sand and rock and salt water and sky and spray to show how outlandish they looked in the scheme of things, how out of place, how unnatural they were. And you can see the rain. It was raining when we shot this. You can see it very clearly in that medium shot on Daniel Pollock there. And we used it. I love the relationship between the boys at this stage. You know, the camera just helped them say it all. And Jackie messing around with this crab thing, you know, her fascination with weird animals like skinheads. So it is with crabs. And you may have noticed we've gone from a blue theme to a yellow theme here. And which is about as creative as I get in this reel. So I hope you can forgive me for that.
I think we should go west.
And the bond between the boys is almost touching. It's something else we got into trouble for, because our critics always said, you know, you should have made the bad guys, you know, less attractive. But that would be missing the point, wouldn't it? I mean, even Hitler loved Blondie, his Alsatian. You know, or his German Shepherd, as I think the Americans would call that breed of dog. And what the hell? I mean, we had to create three-dimensional characters. We had to put facets in them, make them rich and interesting, you know. But you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, at the kind of flack that you get for making this kind of film.
Won't get nowhere with it.
So many places where we just couldn't theatrically screen because of protests and government intervention and things like that. People who attacked the film often hadn't even seen it. It was just a concept. The notion that you could make an entertaining film with these kind of people was too much for them. I thought we said a lot with the film. And their destiny is very clear. You consider the gang has fallen apart. They've all met their fate, except for these guys, but their fate is right around the corner.
That's all. Davey, she's gonna drag us both down.
To me, we didn't have to editorialize any more than we did. It was plain that the narrative was saying, this is how it ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
You don't want her involved if we get caught for last night, do you?
Once again, you can see the dreaded bulldog symbol on Russell's t-shirt, which caused no end of consternation with the football club and city of Footscray.
She can have a share of the money. Can't be further than that. You want to tell her? I'll tell her.
I like this shot. We just pan up to her, and there she is. She's overheard the whole thing.
You're not just dumping her.
And that sense of miserable and abysmal betrayal.
You're looking after her as far as you can.
And the emotional neediness of the characters and the vulnerability is what really destroys them now. This part of their lives that they, you know, had
You gonna tell her?
endured in such an undeveloped way now explodes and all hell breaks loose.
I'm with her.
Yeah. So Daniel Pollock's character's finally declared his allegiance for Jackie, and technically that's the total end of what's left of the game.
Well, Davey, I tried.
I like the fire that takes place here. It was Jackie's big statement that she's saying to hell with all of you. Little realizing that Daniel had crossed over to her side. It's very difficult to maintain that beard on Russell, by the way, because it's something more than a 5 o'clock shadow and something less than a beard. So hats off to the hair and makeup people again. A little bit of German expressionism here with a staircase.
What happened? Gabe! What happened, you mental bitch?
Mental bitch! Ha!
Mental bitch.
I heard what you two said. I know what you're gonna do! You suck, Dave. You can't do
I love John's soundtrack here. You know, it's kind of welling up like an approaching train.
I called him!
It's amazing what one man can do with a synthesizer. Russell, of course, was actually choking Jackie there. It was very hard to get him to hold back, as he loved to be authentic. Love that music. And here's where the film starts to spin into one of these surreal moments again with the arrival of the Japanese tourists, which was pretty much misunderstood by a lot of people. But it's an example of what I was trying to say before about combining the grittiness with certain surrealism. That the Japanese, whose economy was so well developed, could appear in this environment as casual tourists and watch these people who behaved like wild animals, who were incapable of keeping their lives together, who were criminal and helpless and hopeless. This was the irony. That water was freezing cold because it comes off the Antarctic up to the south coast of Australia. That's why there's so many good surf beaches on that coast, because the cold currents hit the hot desert winds, and all sorts of interesting beach conditions result. The winds from the interior of the country, I mean. That soundtrack is very crazy and hellish. A little bit of world championship wrestling here, I think, with some of these punches, and for once Russell is not as authentic as he should be. But I think it's a forgivable mistake after day 25 in the shoot, and we're all exhausted. We shot this at the end. We're all pretty crazy at this stage. This is a very strange moment from Russell, but I thought it worked well. Jackie and Daniel were very great friends at this point, and so that bonding is totally real. And quite frankly, I think they'd run themselves ragged in the course of the production. They were very tired. We all were. And Russell was very glad to lie down and take a rest in this stage, I think, and be dead. Not easy to be dead, though, when you're freezing cold. We had terrible trouble stopping Russell from shivering. And we thought there was a nice irony in having the Japanese observe these people in their current state of complete disarray. And they were on the high ground, and these people were messed up and on the beach, and I thought that said it all. I quite like the last shot, which is the dead, what we call it, the dead man's POV, which was Ron Hagen lying on the wet sand with the Arry, and providing us with this rather glorious backdrop for the credits here. I don't think I've ever seen a shot like that. I quite like it. And we're closing with what John Clifford White called the Dead Nazi March. On that note, I shall leave you, and I hope you found this commentary of some interest.